Hello, I'm Frank Stamfel.
I'm Michael Florio.
And welcome to another episode of The On Deck Circle, presented to you by FantasyOnDeck.com, where we do the research.
So you don't have to.
What? Today we will be previewing the corner infield position.
Corners.
For the upcoming fantasy baseball season. But before we get into the rankings, Aaron Maldonado has the latest news and notes.
Breaking news. Yankees outfielder Curtis Granderson will be out 10 weeks. He was hit in his right forearm and suffered a fracture in his first spring training at bat this year. To fill that void for the Bombers in the outfield will be Juan Rivera and Matt Diaz. Instead of being drafted in the second round, he'll probably fall to maybe the third, fourth round, but when he comes back, he should give you the same kind of production. Albert Pujols for the Angels. He'll be out until mid-March. It seems just to be precautionary, though, so don't worry about it and still draft him in the early picks for your league. Trevor Plouffe for the Twins. He'll be making a spring training debut on Tuesday. He's worth drafting late. Be careful because he was inconsistent last year, and his right calf may still be an issue. The Milwaukee Brewers probably have the toughest first baseman position in the league. After losing Corey Hart till about May and Matt Gamble for the year, the next in line is going to be Hunter Morris. Morris batted .303 with 28 home runs and 113 RBIs in AA last year. He showed good power, but it's going to only time will tell if that power will translate to the big leagues. He's pretty much just a deep sleeper at best. Back to you guys now.
Thanks, Aaron.
Now, moving on to the rankings for first base. Here are some of the top options. As you can see, we have no catchers ranked here on the top first baseman, although they have the eligibility to do so.
We don't advocate starting a catcher at the first base position. Like we stated last week, their value strictly lies as catchers, and starting them at first base kills their value.
At the top, you have Pujols, Votto, and Prince Fielder, who are likely going to be gone by the end of round one in your draft. All three of these guys can likely be interchangeable in ranking, although people still have a lot of trust in Albert Pujols, and I can't blame them. But personally, I feel that Prince Fielder hitting behind Torrey Hunter and Miguel Cabrera and in front of Victor Martinez in that Tigers lineup really has the potential to take over the top spot at the first base position this year.
One guy with a lot of upside is Anthony Rizzo. Finally lived up to his potential last year. He had 15 home runs, 48 RBI, and he batted .285 in just 87 games. In a full season, he has the potential to be a 25-30 home run threat with 100 RBI and a .285 average.
Now moving on to some fallback options at the first base position. These guys will likely be drafted in the later rounds of your draft. But one guy that I like on this list, who I feel is not getting enough recognition, is Phillies first baseman Ryan Howard. Last year, a lot of people forgot about him because he missed half the season recovering from that torn Achilles injury. But last year, he hit 14 home runs and 56 RBIs, despite he did only bat .219. But in 71 games, those are some great power numbers. They got some other new guys coming over to the Phillies with Ben Revere and Michael Young hitting around him. But over a full season, being healthy again, I'm not saying he could play 162 games, but I'm saying if he can play about 150, I think he's a likely candidate to hit 30 home runs and 100 RBIs, again, back in that Phillies lineup. Although the batting average will probably not be too well in the 230 to 240 range, but I still think he can contribute in fantasy format.
One guy I like on the list is Ike Davis. Ike had a really bad start last year. The first 2 months he was batting below 200. He had valley fever. That was an issue for him. He said he was fatigued because he missed almost the entire season before that. But he still finished with 32 home runs, 90 RBI. He did only bat .227. But if you could see him get his average up to around maybe 240, 250, he has 30 to 35 plus home run potential, and 90 RBI in the Mets lineup is probably where he'll stay around, but he has potential to be a big factor in fantasy.
Now here is Aaron Maldonado with a top prospect he likes this season.
A prospect that I like this year at the corner infield position is Rangers' Mike Olt. The 24-year-old righty is eligible at first and third, but could see time at DH or even in the outfield. He's the Rangers' number 2 prospect behind Jurickson Profar. If Mitch Moreland falters at first base for the Rangers, you could see Michael take his spot. In the minors last year, he had 28 home runs with 82 RBIs. His average was 288 with an OBP of 398. His slugging percentage was 579. The Rangers are also open to trading Michael, according to rumors, and the Diamondbacks and Braves have been mentioned. So that could also help him find time in the majors quicker. Since they lost the big bat of Josh Hamilton, Michael could help fill that power void for them in the future. The only question is, can he find his way into the lineup?
So, what do you want to do next, Mike?
Let's take a look at our third base rankings.
Despite having a large stature, Miguel Cabrera climbs his way back to the top of the third base rankings.
One guy on this list I'm worried about is Chase Headley. While he did help out in all 5 categories last year, he also hit more home runs last year than he did in his previous 3 seasons combined. Those numbers were great, but it's worrisome if he could repeat that year.
One player I do like on this list is Martin Prado, who is coming over from the Atlanta Braves in the Justin Upton trade. He's coming off a career year, and hitting in Arizona, I think that he can produce numbers just like he did last season. Now let's take a look at some of the later options at the third base position.
Kevin Youkilis, without the beard, is not nearly as good as Kevin Youkilis with the beard, but moving to the Yankees on a 1-year deal, he could be very solid in that ballpark with that lineup if he can stay healthy.
Manny Machado is an interesting case who came into last season as one of Baltimore's top prospects. I think in his first full season with Baltimore this year, he can be pretty helpful in roto formats. Maybe not as much in head-to-head, although he still has some pretty intriguing value, and in a keeper league, you're definitely going to want to take him a little bit earlier. Rumor has it that you have another bold prediction for the first base position.
I do. I think that Alan Craig has the potential to finish the season as a top 5 first baseman. He batted .307 last season with 22 home runs and 92 RBI in only 119 games. He has the potential to hit .300 with up to 30 home runs and 100 RBI. The only question is his durability, as he has never played in more than 126 games. He's projected to bat cleanup in the Cardinals lineup that's loaded with protection. His average draft position, according to Mock Draft Central, has him going 8th amongst first basemen. But if he stays healthy, he can certainly finish in the top 5. What about you? Do you have a bold prediction about third base?
I do. I think Pirates third baseman Pedro Alvarez can finish as a top 12 option in fantasy this season. If you watch this guy bat, he is a legitimate power hitter that can mash with the best of them. He was first called up in 2010 as one of the top prospects in the Pittsburgh Pirates farm system. He hasn't lived up to the expectations until last year, where he hit career highs in home runs, RBI, and batting average with 30 dingers, driving in 85 runs while batting .243. He won't hit for average and is prone to striking out, which might make him better in roto formats. He will likely be drafted in the later rounds because most people have forgotten about him.
One thing we like to do on this show is help out our Twitter followers. @McCloy24 asks, how does Hosmer and Middlebrooks look as first and third base starters in head-to-head, both kept in the last 2 rounds? I think those are some great last-round keepers. I think Hosmer is due for a bounce-back year. The hype is now behind him. He fell victim to it. He's just some bad luck last year. I think he's going to have a very good year this year.
Yeah, those two in the last 2 rounds, Will Middlebrooks definitely has the potential to go for, I'd say, 30 home runs and maybe 90 or more RBIs. Hitting in Fenway, it's a great hitter's ballpark. The lineup is still pretty solid. I think he could do some big things as long as he stays healthy. That's the key with him. But as usual, don't forget to follow us on Twitter @FantasyOnDeck.
Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and register on our site. And if you have any questions for next week's show, we'll be covering the middle infield positions. That's second and shortstop.
It's been real. Stay classy, fantasy owners.